Yo guys, what's up? Welcome to this new lesson. In this lesson, what we're going to do is start to create the sketch for our main idea. Seen as in the previous lesson, I was telling you about how I wanted to represent the story, of like Romeo and Juliet, applying a summary and synthesis. And I chose to do this through like the two hands that are like almost touching, And in those hands, I want to put in the part where Romeo and Juliet are in, that garden. Juliet's on her balcony on a second floor. And Romeo is just like calling out to her, like, "Where art thou?" It's a beautiful scene. They've known each other for 2 weeks, so it's a bit weird. I wanted to represent the hands. I'm going to sketch out now in small size what I want to do to see how it's going to look, okay? I have the one I did in the last lesson on the top left to use this like kind of a reference. So what I'm going to do is try to respect that symmetry that I want to give my illustration and my final design. So from the hands I'm drawing in here, what I'm going to do is modify it all I want at the beginning, so that later I can kind of like work in like a more balanced way on the other part of the drawing. This way it's going to look like the external silhouette is exactly the same as the other. As I want to create these two hands, I'm going to use the one I've already made, so I don't have to repeat the other one. I'm using as a preference the brush that I was saying before, the pencil styled one, with like a light texture. But, well, if you have a scanner at home or even with a camera on your phone, what you can do, if you don't feel very comfortable yet with Photoshop, is that you can create your own sketch on paper, and then you can amplify that little by little through a digitalized scaling, okay? You draw out your sketch, you clean it as well as you feel it has to be, and then when you put it in Photoshop, you're going to be able to, follow the lines on that illustration. And then from there, we'll go on to color, etc. So as you can see, I've modified that hand a little bit. And now I'm going to copy it and rotate it, and then we'd have that balanced image I was telling you about. I'm going to see how I can place it to make it the most symmetrical I can. I think it's good like this. I'm going to expand it so that it gets to the page margins. I'm going to center it. It's really important that you keep an eye on your automatic guides. You get it into Photoshop, because it might align our work with the artboard, with the space. And this way it's not off-centered at all. Okay. From here onwards, we're going to see how in large it looks different. We just have to adjust it all we need to until it looks the way we want it to. After this, we're going to make a second draft anyway, and from there we're going to start working on the color. As you can see, it's not very polished. I'm going to lower the opacity, and this way it'll be really easy to repeat the drawing with a bit more detail. I'm going to remind you that inside the silhouette, it's not necessary to put in any details, because we're going to do that next with a second illustration inside the silhouette. So if you avoid putting in any detail to the main silhouette, you're going to save yourself a lot of work, concentrate most of all on creating a silhouette that you like. As you can see, I'm doing the line art little by little with another color, so I can differentiate more than anything else, really. It's just a question of going on little by little, really. And well, we're gonna do this again when we do this line art. We're gonna repeat the process we did before, so we'll copy it, rotate it. The thing is with hands is that they have to be a little bit more detailed. We have to be careful to make sure the silhouette doesn't look like anything else. Won't look like hands. They're quite difficult to draw, and I like to take my time to do this right. Just to be clear, I don't draw this. This is Carlotta. I give it voice. Carlotta is an amazing artist by herself. I can't draw hands for the life of me. The palm is a little bit too big. Feels bad saying that after I just said the stuff about Carlotta. But that palm is a bit too big, Carlotta. Get your stuff together. Come on. These things are also useful later to see the mistakes you can make. So it's a question of modifying it until it gets closer to the idea. To the idea that you have in mind. Maybe at the beginning it'll look good, but when you start to polish, you're going to see those small mistakes that later on you're going to have to correct. I'm going to lower a little the fingers because the palm's still looking a bit too long for me. The fingers a little bit too short. Maybe something like this. I'm interested in the inside anyway. The silhouette is basically the margin that's going to tell us what our illustration is going to take up. It's something similar to how to play, how we play with the crop masks. If you think about it, in Illustrator or in Photoshop, we're going to work with a series of silhouettes that are what you want to crop from the image. What we're doing now is creating that silhouette that will crop our illustration. But in our case, what we're going to do is draw the inside from that silhouette. It's not a video I'm doing in fast forward because I really want you to see how I'm distributing or adding the polish and the drawing and all that kind of things, okay? Well, in this case, I'm not using any kind of references to draw this hand. This doesn't mean that you can't do that. You can if you want to. The substitution is continuous. And well, here we would have the end result of our first hand. Let's repeat the same thing with Ctrl J. We're going to copy the layer. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to place it in a way so that it stays as an inferior base that we have. And we're going to fit it into our file so that it looks like our original idea. Now, what we're going to do is group them, Ctrl E or Command E, and we would have this silhouette here. This line, that's what we're going to fill in now with color, and in that way, we'll get the first flat image on the base on which we can include our next graphic resources. You can go along modifying it in any case, after maybe with the liquidate filter. I like the result we've got here in the end, so the only thing left to do is save so we don't lose it. I'm going to remind you guys a lot about saving, because along the course I've lost some things, sometimes just because I didn't save, like a dummy. You have to keep saving, Control S, really always. Don't risk losing your work that you spent so much effort and time on. It's super important, guys. Come on. Save your stuff now. Okay. I'm going to place the layers a little bit better so that I can situate myself. And now what I have left is on a new layer. I'm going to start the sketch of the inside drawing. As I told you guys, I wanted to establish the topic of the scene of Romeo and Juliet where she's on the balcony and he's like down in the garden. He's just being super romantic. That's why I'm going to start, like this. Do I want a character with a lot of detail? No, because we're not going to be able to see all of it. So apart from just synthesizing the concepts, I'm going to just try and reduce the details of the characters and use a group so that it looks just as striking. This way we can get a visual attraction, and we're not overloading the cover by putting too much detail on a character that, maybe later loses complete relevance because it just gets lost within the composition in general. That maybe there's only a little bit of details, but has a lot of volume and objects within the same scene. For example, in the case of that scene of Romeo and Juliet, we're going to have like a lot of vegetation, a lot of flowers. We're going to be able to see the balcony. We're going to have a kind of attention spotlight. I'm going to try and unite the 3 books that I'm going to do. I'm going to declare this one as the main book so that you can learn to develop these scenes in the easiest way possible. And well, as you can see, it's just a question of putting in details, simplifying as much as possible these characters. If you're going to be using characters that, maybe depending on the books you're going to choose, you decide to put in inanimate objects like a vase or like a ball or whatever. It all depends on what you're going to do. As right now, we're talking about like classical books, and we were going to do one of Shakespeare's works. What this dude did was put in characters with a lot of personal charge. So what they normally do in this case is include that character so that they stand out, at least. All right, I finished Romeo. As you can see, I've added in a moon above. And later, we're going to put in the balcony with Juliet. And I've decided that instead of having just Romeo with his hand out, I'm also going to put Juliet in that position, making that way a reference to the silhouette that they're in. As you may remember, I told you not to pay too much attention to the details. Later on, really soon, we're going to be putting in the color. So it's going to lose any kind of detail unless we really insist on them. And it's not really recommended to do this. My recommendation is that you stick to the basics in this case. If you think too much about this in the composition and on what you want to do in the middle, you can do that, but you have to summarize it a lot. You simplify it, making it as flat as possible, because later when you put in the colors, it's going to gain depth, volume, and with the textures I'm going to put in, it's going to be like a kind of a large load. I just want to put in the necessary to use as a guide. But when you think you've got enough with what you've done on the paper, well, you don't have to be adding any more details, really. The summary of the cover is that. Well, it's a summary. That's what it is, you know? We're just trying to make the characters we're trying to make people gather the intention of our cover and make them interested, you know? We're going to get this with a quick look, nothing else. So we have to try and make something striking without oversaturating it. We've all gone book shopping before. We know what this is. Alright, so I'm pretty much done doing the finishing touches, and this would be pretty much it. I mean, you can decide how you want to distribute it, but it's a summary. The next thing we're going to do is look for the right color, a palette, and from that, we're going to develop our drawing, even more relating to what we're doing, and we're going to work really hard on it. See you guys in this lesson. Bye!